Everyone knows what Bitcoin is. People think they know what a blockchain is. Unfortunately, they don't, but they will, because eventually it'll just be Bitcoin.
This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hello, blockchain fans. It's Ian here. I'm sure everybody is in the Christmas spirit and thinking about Christmas Day, but what we want to do today is to think about the future and what's going to happen in 2019. We've got some interesting price fluctuations, shall we say, with Bitcoin on the anniversary of that lovely high we had last year. And to talk about everything Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency is one of the world's leading experts in that field, Mr. Tone Vays. Tone, hello.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on the Blockchain Show.
Not a problem at all. I think it's our pleasure. You've certainly got a massive following out there, and you've been speaking at many events. How many events have you done this year?
Oh man, you know what? I lost count. I just came back from a 3.5-month road trip, pretty much speaking somewhere every week. My guess is I've probably spoken at over 20 conferences this year, probably over 25, plus my own workshops that I do. Yeah, it's really crazy. I like it though. It's fun. Absolutely.
I love landing in a different country, different place, finding out about the people and then moving out quickly. So you could describe yourself as a blockchain rock star on tour. I guess so. Well, definitely the on tour part is true. The concept of a blockchain is always weird to me because everyone has their own definition of a blockchain. It's almost like, how do you define the internet? What's the internet? Everyone uses the word, but how do you explain it? How do you define it? And my definition for a blockchain is very different from the majority of the people that talk about blockchains. To me, a blockchain is the invention by Satoshi Nakamoto. And now we got to talk about, what did he invent? Well, he solved a double spending problem in computers that allows us to send digital data while losing possession of that data by the sender without a middleman to anyone else in the world, thanks to the internet. And unless you're using unless you're using it for that reason, unless you're using it in that form, it's not really a blockchain to me. So it absolutely must have this global mining structure. If you don't have a mining structure, you're not a blockchain to me. So now we're down to like Bitcoin, Monero, Litecoin, maybe Ethereum, because they want to go to proof of stake, and a handful of other proof of work blockchains. And they have to be 100% proof of work. They can't be like 50-50. It has to be 100% proof of work. That's the only mechanism we have to create consensus. And that's a blockchain to me. And even out of those, I don't see anything useful other than Bitcoin. That's a big statement. So there's nothing useful apart from Bitcoin. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So once I separate everything that's not a blockchain out, sure, that's a project. You can do whatever you like with that project, whether you have a token, you don't have a token. Ripple is just a database with a token that's totally useless. Other tokens claim to have some use cases. But let's go back down to the blockchains that are there simply to provide the form of money. Even though the Bitcoin blockchain can one day probably do a lot more than money. But for now, let's talk about money. So Bitcoin has a couple of competitors. I mean, they think they're competitors, like Litecoin, like Monero. Litecoin, claims to be the silver to Bitcoin's gold. They can do more transactions. They can do them faster, but they haven't innovated anything. All they did was took the Bitcoin code, changed the algorithm on how to mine it, created more coins, and made those coins find the blocks faster so that transactions, the transactions confirm faster. But just because they confirm faster, it doesn't mean they're more secure. And they're not more secure. They're significantly less secure. So Litecoin is basically inflation on top of Bitcoin. And if you believe in Litecoin, you first of all, you have to believe in inflation. And Satoshi designed Bitcoin to be non-inflationary. He tried to mimic gold as much as possible. So that's one reason. The other reason is actually, it took me, I don't know if you guys ever read the book, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. And that was an amazing book. And prior to reading that book, I still thought that silver had a purpose in the world as money, the way gold used to, because you've always heard, well, silver has been a more useful money for the people for 5,000 years or 3,000 years than gold has. But that's because silver needed to be a micropayment to gold. In the 20th century, when we had gold backing fiat, silver became more and more useless because gold can now be infinitely divisible, and you no longer needed a micropayment of silver for gold. Well, the same thing is happening here in Bitcoin. Now that Bitcoin is progressing very nicely with Lightning and other scaling solutions, Bitcoin doesn't really need a micropayment. It needed it last year when the blockchain was being spammed and people had crazy agendas. We couldn't get SegWit in. But now Bitcoin transactions are doing fine, and all of the scalability features that are going to come out are going to be great. So Litecoin doesn't need to be a micropayment. And as for Monero, that one is faster. Monero claims to be way more private than Bitcoin, but probably in about 6 to 12 months, the new code upgrades to Bitcoin will start to make it way more private than Monero. So once again, all of these alternate use cases for these other blockchains, they start to slowly go away.
My investment in the silver mining industry has just been blown out the water. So you mentioned security, and this is something we spoke about a number of months ago around how quantum computing will be able to break the algorithm, etc. You say that blockchain's secure. What are your worries around security?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of concerns about quantum computers, and these concerns have always been around. But the core developers of Bitcoin, the guys who are actually programming, they're not too worried about it, and they're the smartest guys in the room whenever I'm around them. So if they're not worried about it, that means I shouldn't be worried about it, because I don't really know all that much about quantum computers. What I do know is when I talked to Adam Back recently, the CEO of Blockstream, and he said that once the Schnorr code gets into the Bitcoin blockchain, basically, once we get Schnorr in, that's going to go a really long way to slow down the threat of quantum computing, because it has something to do with the hashing algorithm, and it makes it way more secure. And in the future, we are talking about a problem that's at least 7 years away, minimum, probably longer. People always overestimate this quantum computer stuff that doesn't really show up. So in the future, if it really comes down to it, I'm pretty sure that the community would be interested in upgrading the code to a stronger encryption mechanism. And it becomes a cat and mouse game. It's really hard to get, like a hard fork is probably impossible, but I'm pretty sure smart people will come up with a way to soft fork into a much stronger form of encryption, so that we don't have to worry about it. I mean, a lot of these numbers, they're like, some of the stuff is not easy to crack, even with quantum computers.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I agree. So we don't need to worry about it too much for 7 years, and I totally agree. I think that we've all got that understanding about how the blockchain works and why it's secure enough for now. So what about the big question? We've seen Bitcoin take a little bit of a dive. What do you predict for 2019 with the value of Bitcoin? Which I know that all of our listeners are there hanging on to your every word to work out whether they have to buy more Bitcoin to have a nice Christmas next year, or whether they should completely leave that alone.
So I am expecting the end of the bear market to come sometime next year, but next year is long, right? Like a year in Bitcoin terms is long. I mean, look at our recent year where we went from $20,000 all the way down to $3,000 in 1 year. So what are we looking at right now? Well, there's a bit of a rally going into year end, a rally going into Christmas. And I think this rally is not, I don't think the bear market has ended. Let's put it that way. Do I think the low is in for the year? Sure. I don't expect a crash in the last week of the year. But I do expect Bitcoin to drop below $3,000 next year. I don't think it's over. There's a couple of things that are telling me it's not over. The way we bottomed this year is not how markets typically bottom. There wasn't enough despair and anger and frustration that I've seen. It was a lot worse in the last bear market. So I think there's more pain yet to come. In addition, my current one now is I'm watching this pump over the last 3 to 4 days as we went up 25% on Bitcoin. But something like Bcash, the Bitcoin ABC Bcash, because there's now two of them, something like Bcash just went up over 100%. Ethereum just went up even more than Bitcoin. Something that Waves thing, they just 16 million ICO wasn't enough. They just raised another 120 million. I have no idea what. I just can't see Bitcoin going back up to new all-time highs, dragging this garbage that is totally useless with it going up faster. Like when the dot-com bubble eventually popped, I don't like comparing cryptos to individual companies, right? However, all of these ICOs, they're basically individual companies. They just issued unlicensed, unregistered securities, uncompliant securities in my book. But if we do compare Bitcoin and all of its, all of the other blockchains and cryptos to the dot-com bubble, when that thing popped, everything that was garbage never came back. Like we didn't see publicly traded companies that had nothing but a fancy website, no customers, no clients, no revenue, no money. We didn't see them pump again like in 2004, 2005, when the market recovered and we started to go into the real estate bubble, right? So when I see Bitcoin going up and it's dragging useless, in my opinion, worthless coins that should go to zero, when they're pumping even harder, this isn't over. So to me, the bubble, we're not going to turn a corner. We're not going to go to new all-time highs until it's only Bitcoin, because I don't see anything else with fundamental value. As long as I see other stuff pumping faster than Bitcoin, I don't think it's over. So that's what I'm waiting for. I could be wrong on that one, but that would be my fundamental end to the bear market and start of the bull.
That sounds very, very logical. So what you're saying is, because there's so much investment going over a wide number of different currencies, people aren't really going to invest in Bitcoin. It's not radical enough. People are going to be investing all of their hard-earned money into new and up-and-coming projects, hoping that will be the project that stands the test of time.
Right. And just to elaborate on what you just said, basically, look, on the second go-around of after the dot-com bubble, it was very hard for a useless company to, make it to the top. It was, people were skeptical. And when I see like worthless blockchains being pumped, money being flowing into them right now, it means that people haven't learned their lesson. And markets have a way of fully correcting. So if Bitcoin starts to go up again, along with all this nonsense, then like Bitcoin isn't any different, but Bitcoin is different. Like eventually investors and we're talking about science here, right? We're talking about data science, talking about computer science. Eventually the right science makes it to the top and the nonsense goes away. So that's the thing. Like, as long as people are investing in nonsense, they need to continue to be punished until they learn their lesson.
And for our younger listeners out there, the dot-com boom, which we're talking about, really was, if you had a website and a company name, then people would just throw money at you. It was simply crazy. And everybody just watched in horror about how much money was being thrown at companies. Some of them grew, but a lot of them failed and literally had to leave their offices and equipment when people realized that they didn't really have anything of substantial value. And that must be the same for so many cryptocurrencies out there. There's just a total plethora of currencies. And actually, listeners, if you can find a currency or that isn't represented out there in the blockchain world, then let us know, because I can't think of any subject that hasn't been covered by some sort of coin out there. I'll let you Google that on Christmas Day afternoon when the kids are screaming and you want some space to yourselves, listeners. It's certainly very, very interesting, and I do believe what you've said, that blockchain will still be underlying infrastructure. Bitcoin will just stay exactly as it is until we come out the other side. And there we go. We've got some investment advice as well. Make sure the tokens and currency you're investing in actually has some actual tangible assets, or it's doing some good. And they've actually done something with it, as some of our previous guests on the show have told us.
Yeah, and when you do that research, actually do the research. Don't just read or watch what other people say. Like, go look at their website. Go look at who's running this thing. Go look at who funded it. Go take a look at their clients. Go take a look at who's using it and what they're using it for. Going to another YouTube channel from a guy that's holding that token and is trying to sell it at the top, pumping it up, is not research.
Oh, absolutely. And we've all seen those rooms with iPhones all over the walls. Other phones are available. iPhones all over the walls, just creating spam for forums regarding currencies which have been set up in someone's basement. It's actually happening out there. So even when you do your research, how valid is it? Is it just random bots creating this? And this is the next problem we're going to face in 2019. We've had 2018 is fake news. Now we're going to have fake forums, fake interactions, and it's going to be interactions with robots. How we stop this, I don't know. What we're only going to trust is what we see with our eyes. But I was watching a video last night of some holograms performing in front of people in a theatre. Anyway, I'm getting off subject here. So how would you describe your 2018 in your blockchain world?
Oh man, I think this is the year I think this is the equivalent of the year 2000. I think this is the year people realize which blockchains are useful to the world and which aren't. I think going into history, I think this will be known as the year that Bitcoin, next year Bitcoin will separate itself from the other blockchains. But this will always be known as the year of, another great bubble. We've had two of these in the past. Bitcoin had fallen from $30 down to $2. Bitcoin had fallen from $1,200 down to $150. And this is just going to be another one of those years where the hype and the FOMO, the fear of missing out, just got a little bit out of control. People thought that Wall Street was going to come in with the futures on the CME. Futures launched, no big deal. Nobody trades them, no liquidity. The hype just went out of the bubble. It was a little too far, too fast. But I'm loving the underlying protocol upgrades and everything that Bitcoin is going to be able to do in the future. It's surpassing my expectations, but we overshot to the upside. And in 2018, we will know what it's like after the overshoot to the upside on the overshoot to the downside.
Excellent. Thank you. I know we've only got a few minutes left before you have to leave us and do your Christmas shopping. So what are your predictions for 2019? Give us some thoughts.
I think 2019 is going to be the year Bitcoin separates. I mean, the life cycle of Bitcoin's been around with us for 10 years. And unlike 3 years ago, there's almost nobody you can say the word Bitcoin to and they haven't heard of it. It's being talked about every day, all over the mainstream media, everywhere. Everyone knows what Bitcoin is. People think they know what a blockchain is. Unfortunately, they don't, but they will because eventually it'll just be Bitcoin. I think 2019 is the year Bitcoin separates. I think we are going to have a bottom this year in 2019. It's hard to define when a bear market ends. For example, in 2015, the low price came around January 6th. But Bitcoin didn't really start to go up until like October or November. So to me, the bear market really ended in October, November, even though price-wise, the low was in January. I have no idea when the low is going to be in, but I think towards the end, towards that October, November period, we will start to go back up and noticeably.
Tone, it's been very interesting talking to you, and you certainly have got some good thoughts, and you're traveling around the world to these different events. Certainly paid off. How can people find out more, follow you, and all of the rest of that nice stuff?
Sure. My two most popular mediums are Twitter. I'm Tone Vays on Twitter, and also the Tone Vays YouTube channel. So you guys can follow me for my daily videos. I usually talk about price once a week, though I've been traveling. When I'm available, I try to do a law show where I get together with a bunch of lawyers in the crypto space, very informative. We try to cover the latest tech news in Bitcoin as well, cover the altcoins, and sometimes we even cover traditional markets. The stock markets in the US have been going a little crazy. It's causing a lot of havoc all over the world. I'm also putting together my first conference. It's going to be in Las Vegas in January. It's called Unconfiscatable, which is my favorite property of Bitcoin, because for the first time in human history, we can own something of value that is unconfiscatable. So please think about that. So I named my conference Unconfiscatable. You can go to unconfiscatable.com for more information. It will be the weekend before the Super Bowl, January 24th to 26th. Conference day is 26th, and we have a celebrity poker game. I'm going to put up a few more seats up for sale to join us. Me and lots of others, some professional poker players. There's going to be 100 people, celebrity poker tournament, 0.1 Bitcoin entry fee to play in this tournament for real prizes and everything. It's going to be organized by the casino. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Fabulous. So that's Tone Vays, spelled Tone. And the last name is Vays.
Yeah, there's also tonevays.com as well for more information on everything.
Fabulous. Thank you. Well, I hope some of our listeners turn up. And if you do go, then please say hello to Tone from us, and also report back. Let us know what you think. And if you win any money in the poker tournament, then don't forget about your friendly neighborhood blockchain show. Any donations are welcome and received. With that, Tone, thank you very much for your time. I shall let you go, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And, of course, to our listeners, thank you ever so much for supporting us through 2018. We've had a lot of fun recording these interviews and finding interesting people around the world to speak to regarding blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and everything in between. So please keep downloading, keep telling your friends to subscribe, like the Facebook page, and please enjoy your cryptocurrency and your blockchain over Christmas. So we wish you a joyous Christmas and a happy New Year, and we will speak to you very soon. Thank you very much. Tone, thank you.